We're here. Who else? Good to know. How is everyone else thinking? How are you feeling about Q&A? Who's like nervous or confident? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling nervous about it. Just you don't know what they're going to ask.
Okay. So that lack of certainty and the unknown, the easy answer to that is one, trust yourself, right? You know your business, you know what you know, and you know what you don't know. Right? Like no one's trying to catch you out. They're really focused on just exploring and understanding a little bit more. And I'm going to really show that. In this session, we're going to do kind of about 20 minutes on a few slides and some tips and that kind of stuff. We'll talk about the actual final day itself. And then we're just going to do a ton of Q&A practice. So we'll split you into two groups with Ed and I. Don't worry if we haven't seen your particular presentation, we have more than enough questions, even if we don't know what you're talking about.
Out of interest, has anyone done a Q&A before on this idea or any other? Hands up. Who would like to share, you know, maybe some of the tactics they used that they found helpful?
I'm happy to share that. I think that the thing that I found helpful in the past was mostly trying to aim the question of the Q&A the way I wanted them to be. So I always make sure that in a pitch or in a video or whatever I'm doing, I think through the way I plan that pitch or that video, what questions I want people to ask. I don't want people to ask me questions because of it's unclear. I want them to ask me questions because I know about it, because they want to find out how I did something. They want to understand better. So I usually try to make sure that I don't leave any confusions. And if I can't put something in there because I don't have time, then I will give that hint or that brief sentence, couple of words to trigger that question. So most of the Q&As I ended up having, then they were, most of the questions, they were the question that I expected because I put those questions in the pitch myself. So it's that's what I found most useful in the past.
Yeah, so I really like that. And I think, again, this is a nice opportunity to test out your pitch with other people. So like we did last week, that sense of what outstanding questions are there after that pitch. So the audience, you know, are there any points that still need clarifying? And, you know, once you understand those, you can kind of make some notes to be able to address those. And then, you know, hopefully you can spend the majority of the Q&A time focusing on expanding on what you've already explained to them, as you suggested, Asmo. Natalie, do you want to share your experience? Or are you struggling to get unmuted? No, we can't hear you, unfortunately.
It does say
your sharing is not muted on our end of things, so nothing I can do, unfortunately.
So it's either the headphones, if you check your laptop settings, or if you're on a Mac, if you press Command and comma, it will bring up the settings.
And equally, next to the mute button, there's a little up chevron that opens up your audio settings.
Yeah, that's where it is.
So you can actually test your speakers and make sure that your the microphone is going through the right part of your laptop. Just while we're waiting for Natalie, does someone else want to share? I saw Kay, your hand went up, and I think Darby as well.
So I'd say something that Massimo's on our team, so it feels like we're eating up everyone's time. I mean, I'd just add the other thing that I think sometimes it's important to realize that sometimes when someone asks a question, that the question they frame is a general idea, and the best answers are ones that make people consider if the question they've asked is sometimes even the right one, and if there's another avenue to the question too. I think because it shows you've got competency in the area. So if you get asked something general about your technical implementation, you start talking about specifics of it. It's not just that you've answered the question, it's you've shown how you thought about the question and what other ways there could be an answer. So I think that's just the final point. But otherwise, Massimo's pretty much spot on. Yeah, I can't really.
Awesome. Kai, do you want to add anything? And then we should probably kick off imminently. I'm not sure who else we're waiting for.
Yeah, I don't really have any specific tips. I just am kind of comfortable under pressure. I feel like when someone asks me a question, I just take a second to think about it and then just give like, I don't know, whatever answer. But yeah, try to lead the answer into what other things I may not have gotten a chance to say in the 2-minute pitch. So.
Nice. So my immediate follow-up question was going to be, so why are you calm under pressure? But then you said that through one, just taking that pause, that moment to reflect and like ask yourself, do I understand the question? Like, is this what they're asking me? And like, what am I going to tell them? And then launching into it. When you're on a stage or, in a Zoom stage, when you're silent, there is a stat somewhere, I don't know how true this is, but it's like, it feels like something like 10 times speed is passing at the 10 times the rate or whatever. So you being quiet for a whole second literally is like in your head, you're going, oh my God, I haven't said anything forever. And everyone's judging me for not talking. It's like 1 second has passed. That is no amount of time. You can breathe, relax, smile, and then come at the question when you're ready. And if you need to buy time, don't be afraid to say, sorry, Kai, could you repeat that question for me, please? Bad internet, didn't quite catch it.
Yeah.
And again, even if you're on stage, you can still say, hey, can you repeat that? I didn't quite hear you or anything. Natalie, how are you doing?
I hope you can hear me now.
Yay!
Does that work?
Brilliant.
I was trying to install a microphone you suggested, so my whole settings exploded.
Yes.
Yeah, so my experience, 2 things are, one, like, obviously we are the ones knowing our projects the best. So if there is a question, probably the answer could be like an hour long because we know all the details. So I find it always a bit difficult to just like be really precise and be like on the spot, where I experience as well if there are like other people in the panel or like other projects that you sometimes like lose the focus on that specific question.
Yeah, being specific is hard, and it takes practice. And I think all of you, practice a few kind of clear one-liners that you use over and over again. So it might be your vision, your mission statement. Maybe you've got like a pithy one-liner. Maybe it's describing your benefits. You always say, we're cost effective, or like we're cost effective, easy to use, and improve well-being. Right? We make you feel good about yourself, whatever. But if that's the 3 things and you say that over and over again, and you get used to just dropping that into questions, into sentences, and it just reminds everyone, it's like, oh yeah, Natalie's got 3 really awesome benefits for her business. Like, I really like that.
Yeah, and the second thing is that I find it sometimes difficult if there are like one panel member asking multiple questions and like completely different ones. And then you're like, answer the first one or the last one and you forget what the other one was about. So like making little notes while they ask the questions is also helpful sometimes.
Right. I'm going to blow everyone away with a cricket analogy, because who doesn't love cricket? Right. This is going to be the least popular example ever. But genuinely in cricket, you're facing bowl after bowl, bowler after bowler. And if you might be playing all day, you face hundreds and hundreds of balls. Lots of batsmen take the mentalities. You treat each ball like it's the first one of the day. Each one is its own individual moment. Right. So don't panic about repeating stuff. Like, make sure you answer the question no matter what the circumstances, right? And sometimes it happens just because people are looking at it from a different lens. So you might explain your business model and what you think is great context, and I might follow up with another question about business model, and you're going, what, wasn't Mark listening? And it might actually be like, no, I got it, but like, I'm looking for more specific detail about your supply chain, or about like, talk to me more about costs, or whatever it might be. And it's not always obvious, right? So don't worry about repeating, focus on answering the question.
Absolutely. And just to add to that, I've definitely been in positions where judges ask intricate questions, and sometimes hybrid questions where there might be 2 or even 3 questions all in some mushy spiel, because judges often like taking the stage and speaking a lot, it's worth taking a moment and asking a clarifying question. Just to be clear, are you asking 1 and 2? And you kind of summarize what you think they're asking, and they say, yeah, that's absolutely right. And then you know how to address that question. If there's a lot of noise and complexity in the way that they ask the question, that can help. All right, over to you, Mark.
Absolutely. So let's kick everything off. Oh man, this is where my Zoom disappears and I've got to find everyone again. Okie dokie. So, and Kat, can I confirm, are we waiting for anyone else? Are we good? Are we happy?
Yep, you're all set.
Okay, fantastic. Right, so delivering a killer Q&A. As I said, well, first off, I cannot say this often enough. Congratulations. You should all be so pleased with making it this far. I'm so impressed by all the kind of the presentations that I've seen over the last week of mentoring. And, you know, again, this kind of press and opportunity is absolutely great for driving your credibility. I remember when I was 21 or 20 even, and I went to my first meeting, like one-on-one with a really awesome entrepreneur. And he was like, yeah, I know what you're doing. Like, it looks really, really awesome. And I was like, how do you know what I'm doing? But obviously they Googled me, and obviously like exciting press came up about one of the awards we'd won, rather than, you know, Mark Corbett's really boring and awful Facebook page circa 2008. So this stuff is absolutely brilliant. For getting this far, you should be so pleased. So we're going to talk about Q&A, the state of mind. We're going to go through some kind of clear top tips and slides, and then we'll talk a little bit about the day so you feel really comfortable and prepared. Then we'll do a break, and then we'll do the kind of the bulk, the half of the session around Q&A practice. And we're just going to go. So Ed and I are just going to reel off questions, and we'll go one by one. We'll get everyone's video on, check everyone's audio, and then kind of like imagine you're there. Imagine we've watched the presentation, and you're just giving awesome answers. And then that should hopefully improve your confidence and your kind of ability to execute on the day. Awesome. As a check-in, has anybody not had a one-on-one mentoring session this week with Ed or I? Cool, just checking. So with that, let's crack on. I'm going to start with the do's, all the things that you should do when doing your Q&A. Do clarify, right? As mentioned, if you don't understand stuff, ask, right? Like, if you give a bad answer to a bad question, it looks bad on everyone, right? Just clarify. And then it gives you that opportunity to think, pause, and get ready to really answer the question. Do be really concise. You have just a few minutes for the Q&A. You do not want to spend the whole Q&A answering one question from the first judge, because then the rest of the judges are going, oh, well, I didn't get to ask a question. And odds are you've probably already answered the question and you are over answering it, right? If you give me enough detail to answer the question, and if I feel like I really need more, I will have a quick follow-up, right? And be ready for the, like, that was a good answer, but so how much will this cost, right? Or if you miss a really obvious specific point, just be ready and don't be fazed by it. It's not a bad thing. You might just be in the flow and forget to mention something or not notice they want something in particular. So don't worry. If you have multiple people doing the Q&A, my rule of thumb is I don't mind someone answering on top of the other person, right? But only if you are adding exponentially more value, right? The person answering the question should be able to answer that question. If you as their business partner feel they need more, make sure you are adding on exponentially more value. If it's just a bit better, don't bother. Let the next question come and tackle that instead. Do admit you don't know stuff, right? This is part of the entrepreneurial journey. We do not expect you to know what your product costs if you are still in an early MVP stage. If you do have outlines, like if you can say we're confident it will cost between 150 and 195, you know, based on the next set of development we're doing, great, right? But don't blag it, don't fake it. And if you really don't know, say, yeah, we haven't got to that stage of prototyping yet. We're still focused on, and then tell me something good instead, right? We're still focused on delivering X and Y and Z. And maybe have a roadmap. We're going to know this by Christmas, or in the next 3 months, we'll have X, right?
This one is super important. and it's actually come up throughout the process. Oh, what happens if I don't have an MVP or revenue, whatever? This program is not about having all of the answers. It is about potential and potential for success. And Mark is absolutely right. I have seen all too many people floundering around to try and make something up, and they end up looking pretty terrible actually on stage because they're found out, because their thing made up on the spot just doesn't make sense. So I really think this is an important one. And actually it shows real authority to be able to say, we haven't got there, and as Mark says, but we have this logical, pragmatic process for achieving it. And in the meantime, we're focusing on this number one goal. Super important.
A good particular question in relation to this one is stuff around competition. If people, this tends not to be too prevalent in this kind of environment, but you might well say, hey, what do you think of XYZ competition, or are you aware of them, or how do you compare against them? If people ask you how do you compare against someone, that really just means they didn't quite understand your USP, right? If you haven't heard of the competition, you can say, hey, I haven't heard of them. If you're saying you haven't heard of, Facebook or Etsy or Google, then yeah, you're going to look really silly. But we also trust you to know your top competitors. If they're really obscure and based out of New Zealand, and you just haven't found them yet on your research, that's totally okay, right? That happens too. The trick is, again, focusing on your USP, what makes you different, and knowing that stuff. And again, if people tell you stuff you don't know, you can say, thanks very much. Like, we'll make sure we go away and research them thoroughly, next week. Simple. So those are my top tips for things to do. Let's do the things we shouldn't do. Don't panic. Number one rule is don't panic. Sounds obvious, but yeah, it's important. How do you not panic? Pause, breathe, trust yourself, right? You know your business, you know what's going on. Maybe, you're at home, you're allowed to have a couple of key notes. Maybe you have Post-it, like if my camera's here, maybe I have Post-it notes right here in front of my camera against the wall, so I can make sure I go this one, this one, this one, this one. And it's not too obvious I'm panicking and, reading or shuffling papers over here. Don't do that, right? Just don't panic, stay calm, and give the best answer you possibly can do. Don't make stuff up. Kind of tied to the last bit about being honest, right? If you do get asked about things that you're not quite sure about, maybe you have had a vague chat with your business partner, but you really don't know, you don't want to be making stuff up. Like if people ask you about like your financial plan, say, yeah, we've got a financial forecast and give the broad strokes. If you're a numbers person, maybe don't even do that, right? Don't get into the position where you feel you have to give details that you don't know, because then it makes it feel like everything you have then told me is a bit dubious, right? And that is an absolute nightmare scenario. Lastly, this is a really big one. Don't take it personally. If people haven't understood your business model, that does not mean that you are an idiot. It doesn't mean you've presented badly, right? It doesn't mean they're attacking you. It could mean they were writing the most awesome note about your problem solution fit that they just didn't hear the business model bit. That is really, really common, right? People are so excited about something you do, they miss something else, right? Particularly if you have a presentation that's going very fast. You have a slower presentation with more pauses, more breaks, less likely for that to happen.
So again, I think this is a really important one. The way it's been described to me in the past, which I really like, is that any question, however pointed or challenging, is not an attack, it is a negotiation. You have the ability to say, thanks so much for the feedback, or thanks for that great question. The way we are framing it, and, counter with your own opinion. It is a negotiation. They are opening space up for your opinion and not attacking you or not putting you in a position where you should feel defensive.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Lastly, how should you be? Be prepared, right? As I said, maybe it's having some Post-it notes behind the camera right here. Make sure you mention this wow factor comment that you can't fit in your presentation because there's no time, right? Like maybe think, what are the best 3 things about my business that I don't get to talk about in the pitch, right? It's not a problem they're not in a pitch, right? Because you only got 2 minutes and you need more stuff in Q&A. Like if you gave me the pitch and you had nothing else to talk about, that would be really weird, right? Like the Q&A is an amazing opportunity to drop like additional stat bombs, mic drop moments, like the kind of stuff that makes me go, oh my God, this is even better than I thought it was watching what was a really awesome pitch. So be super prepared. This session is obviously going to help, get your parents or sisters, brothers, whatever, to do some Q&A practice with you. And the other side of that is that Q&A practice does show how people are responding to the pitch video. And you will often get similar questions, right? Each and every one of you have the bits about your presentation that make it really great, and then the things that are perhaps more complicated. If you have a totally new innovation and the kind of thing that I don't really have anything to compare to, you're going to get more questions around like viability and business model, right? If your business model is exactly the same as something else, but I don't understand, or the problem is super complex, yeah, expect people looking for more data there, or like how big is the market, like do people really want to buy this, stuff like that, right? So you will get an insight into the types of questions you will get based on other people looking at this, with the caveat, sometimes, because people do like the idea of fairness, some judges will ask the same questions over and over again in the same round, because they'll think, oh, if I've asked someone this, then I should ask someone else this. So if you are not first, make sure you are paying attention to other people's Q&As, because you might get the same stuff. You might not, but it's worth being prepared for. Be practiced, right? If you know your revenue model is tough or you stumble on numbers, practice that stuff the most, right? If you're trying to say a certain statement and you keep like fumbling your line every time, you get a tongue twister, stop saying it, right? Just find another way to say it. I can't tell you how many times I've written a really awesome sentence on a piece of paper, and then every time I say it, I'm like, blah, 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 and it really gets frustrating. So you just don't say it and you just reword it and away you go, right? All of this stuff comes through that practice process. And again, in terms of how you practice, I have on my app, on my laptop, a app called Hand Mirror. I tap it and it opens up a mirror back to me, so I can stare right at it as if I'm on Zoom, and I can stand there and go, here, Edven, our business model is X, Y, Z, and Z, and we do X, Y, Z, this and this, whatever. And I get more comfortable seeing my silly face on screen, right? All of you, like, it's all weird. When you look at yourself and you're not looking at an audience and you're staring into a little green light or whatever it might be, it is weird. The more you practice it, the more comfortable you will feel. Simple as that. There's no cheat sheet, it's just time. And then lastly, be well slept. I cannot emphasize this enough, right? If you are cramming for a maths test and you just need more information in your brain in order to regurgitate out clear, methodical answers, sure, maybe you don't need as much sleep. When you need to do creative problem solving and remember like complex elements of your business that are all over the place, from marketing to revenue models to whatever, you need your brain operating at maximum capacity. You will look calmer, you will feel calmer, you will be more authoritative, less likely to be a bit shaky, right? And you will be able to turn what will be nerves, because I am sure you will all be nervous, and turn that nervousness into excitement and positive energy. So plan backwards from the day, right? Make sure you have a good day the day before, good night's sleep. If you've got a ton of other work on, try and front load as much of that onto, this weekend or next weekend, rather than in the few days running up to the competition. Cool. Any questions so far? Awesome. So then the last slide from me, how you really take the Q&A up to that next level. If in doubt, right? If it wasn't a great question, it was a bit fluffy or whatever, if in doubt, add more value. Don't be afraid to drop a stat bomb or something awesome about your business that is related to the answer, but maybe not directly an answer to it, right? Pull it back to something great, right? This is why we have a vision of, taking X amount of like materials out of the, or in the circular economy, or this is how we're going to create this many jobs. This is how we're going to do whatever, right? Like have a couple of lines that you can always come back to and go, bang, right? You want to end on your terms and end with certainty. You don't want to have a great Q&A and then be like, so yeah, right? You want to end by saying, and that's how we're achieving our vision. Done. Next question, right? Each time make it really clear that you finished. Best way of doing that, don't finish with an intonation. Don't raise your voice, just finish. Certainty, take it a little bit deeper. That's why our vision is this. Total certainty, and it will convince everyone that you are brilliant, you have an awesome pitch, you have an awesome Q&A, and that you're brilliant individuals with a much higher chance of success than the average entrepreneur. So with that, that's the Q&A session done. Let's talk about the event itself, and then we'll go into quick break and then practice. Kat, would you like to explain a little bit about how the format will run for everybody?
Yeah, happy to. I'll be sending out on Monday, you'll get the full list of links to join. We're doing it on Zoom webinar, so it will look similar to this, but not exactly the same. The main difference will be is that I will be popping you in and out of the visible world on the webinar. So I will be changing you from being an attendee to being a panelist when it is your turn to talk. So the only finalists who are going to be visible are the people who are answering questions at that time and the judges. So linked to that, one request I'm going to be putting in my email to you is to just confirm who is going to be responding to the questions. If you're in a big team, as Mark was saying, we recommend 2, maximum of 3, just because you do only have 5 minutes. So each pitch video will be played through a YouTube link. So we'll put the YouTube link in the chat so people can go and watch it on their own internet speeds rather than it having to download and then upload. Go watch the video, come back, and then each group will have your 5 minutes with the judges to answer their questions, just so they can find out more about your ideas. As Mark was saying, all of our judges are really nice. I made a comment about Dragon's Den, where they've edited it to be the most evil questions and really, really interrogating people because they're putting their own money into it. Our judges really just want to understand what you're doing. So they're not there to catch you out. They really do just want to know more about your idea to help them make the decision that we've passed over to them to make. So it'll be the 2-minute pitch, 5-minute questions, then we'll switch the finalists. So pop one group out, pop another group back in. You'll be able to see, so the audience will be able to see everything, but won't be able to be visible themselves. So we maintain control over who can see there. Then that will all go through for the 6 in each group. We then have a past finalist coming in to talk. So they will start talking, past winner, be able to answer any questions, have a bit more of a chat with the audience at that point, while the judges retire to another Zoom room to do their deliberations. And then all of the announcements will be made at the end of the day in the awards event. So you'll each group will have your hour and a half of the event. So here we have creative and health, I believe. So creative, you're the last group of the day, so you'll pretty much go straight from your event into the award ceremony, and health, you are first before lunch. So around, down the paper here, just before 11 it will kick off. What we are going to ask you to all to do is log on to the call earlier than the audience and the judges. So we'll have 15 minutes with just you guys in the visible space. So we can test all of your microphones, cameras, make sure everything's working. Then we'll pop you into the audience, get the judges in, do the same process for them in terms of checking that their audio is working and their videos are working. Then I have a little bit of exciting news. We are not unfortunately welcoming Deborah Meaden, but she has recorded a good luck message to you all, which will be played at the beginning of each session. So she wasn't able to join it. She was a judge a few years ago, but is not able to do it this year due to other commitments. But she has agreed to record a little good luck video. So you'll see that at the beginning. She's not there, she can't see you, so nothing to confuse you or put you off or anything, but just hopefully a nice start to the meeting to say that we've got support from the entrepreneurial community in that respect. So I think I've covered all the key bits there. The main bit will be to tell me who you want to be answering the questions. And on the day, what we are going to ask you to do is to, because on Zoom you have the ability to rename yourselves, we're going to ask you to put your business name at the beginning. So just when I'm trying to find you alphabetically in the attendee list, I'm looking for the business. So if you're presenting, just have your business name in front of your name, and then it'll be a lot easier to find you and pull you into the main room. But we'll do a reminder about that when we're having that sort of pre-meeting check of everything on the day.
Awesome.
I was trying to remember to finish on a low there, against my main thing of just going bye, which is generally I go very high pitched at the end of speaking. But yeah, any questions, do just let me know.
Sorry, Kat, quick question. Are we going to present in alphabetical order by the name of the business?
Yes. Yeah, it will just be alphabetical order by your business. So you'll get to go at the end.
Yes, I know.
Good idea of calling
yeah.
your name with an X.
And it's another quick question. Are we able to bring up any slides or anything when we answer in questions? No.
No, sorry, it'll just be just you just talking at that.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. Brilliant. Thank you.
I will put that in my notes as well.
I have a follow-up question on that one. Sorry. It's just us talking, or if we have prototypes, can we show stuff as well? Or is that then not allowed?
I think if you can hold it up.
Yeah, if you are holding it.
If I can hold it up, I can use it.
Yep. If it's possible to get it in your little window, then that is completely fine. Again, this is to try and keep it as close as possible to our old format of in person. So if you were in person, you would be able to bring on bigger props, but you do have that option to you, and whatever you can hold is allowable.
And before you even ask, if you have a software solution, don't try and do this and wave it in the camera. That won't go down well. Isaac.
Sorry, will the judges ask you to, like, for example, if there's in your pitch video, if there's a slide or something like that, that the judges couldn't get to read in time or something like that, would they ask you to show it, or like, can we show a slide?
The only reason they wouldn't be able to read it in time is if you didn't put it up on screen long enough.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I thought you might say that.
Yeah. But it is a good point, when doing any presentation, especially online, you have the advantage that you can have a bunch of links open and ready should you need them. It's maybe unlikely that you will need some, if any of those, but you can have your pitch deck if you have one, slides, supporting information, and you can just quickly share screen and say, this is what I was talking about. Here's a wireframe of my app.
Okay.
So sorry, Ed. Just sorry to contradict you. We're going to say no sharing screens, actually.
Oh, no.
Yeah, because that's what I was asking originally. Sorry for asking.
Yeah, no. So no sharing screen or anything. It just has to be the people. Sorry about that, Ed.
Makes sense.
So,
All
Kat,
right, I take that back.
so Kat, just to confirm, so the only information they're going to be able to see is the one in our video. That's all the information they have to review and to see and to look at. Then it's the questions that we're going to answer based on those slides that are there. But for example, if my product roadmap is not there and they ask about the product roadmap, all I can do is talk about it, but I cannot show, even though I have it on my deck, but I didn't put it in my video because it's too long anyway. So all they have to follow is what they see on the video. Is that right?
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay.
Isaac, sorry, did you have a follow-up question?
No. That cleared it up. I was gonna say, like, whether you can print out something, but that's a bit cheeky. So no. Yeah.
I mean, we have had handouts when we've been in the room, but again, like with showing your phone, the resolution is just not going to be great. So I wouldn't recommend that. In fact, I would probably say don't do it because it's not going to help you.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
And one of the reasons for this, it comes back to the central point, which is, one of the most, if not the most important success factor in an early startup is you, right? Irrespective of idea, irrespective of the traction you've got so far, like if people don't buy into you, then the rest of it is all irrelevant, right? So you need to be able to flourish in an environment where it's just you or your business partners together, on screen or on a stage, whatever it might be.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Cool. Any other final questions?
There's one in the chat from Sandrine, and we're curious about the same question.
I guess on that one, it's going to make it easier for me, and I think for you, if just the people who are going to talk are visible on the screen. Because otherwise you might start kind of like trying to make eye contact and waiting to see who's gonna step forward, and you do only have 5 minutes. So even if it's kind of 5 seconds at the beginning of each answering question of oh, so my colleague would take that those kind of lead-ins are just easier if there's fewer people, which is why we do try to put the limit on how many people are there to help you, really. Would you think that would be a problem to only have 2 people coming in? When we do the announcement, your whole group will be there, but just for the Q&As, we'd recommend to maximum of 3, basically to make your life easier, and have a little bit of an idea of which of you amongst yourselves would answer any questions on finance or would answer any question on the technical chemistry or web design type stuff, so that if those questions come up, you don't have that kind of trying to make eye contact across the video screen, which is impossible type thing. So just to have that in your prepared arsenal.
Okay, so a follow up on that. When the video is, I guess the video is not shown, it's just shared with a link. Will we be on the screen there, the whole team, or is it also the people answering the questions?
That would just be the people answering the questions. The other people,
okay.
Anyone not talking, will just stay in the audience, so will not come in and then be visible.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Last question, or should we go to a break? Last chance. Fantastic. Right, let's take a 5-minute break, and we'll come back at kind of just after 1:45, nearly 10 to, but not quite 10 to.
And just before we do, Kat, how would you like to break up the groups into breakout rooms? Should we do it by theme again?
Yeah, I think that's useful, because it probably will be, if not big repeats between questions, there are going to be more themes underneath the different categories. So I think it is worth keeping people in their categories in that respect. So we've got creative and health. I think Ed, you had the health group last time. So should we stick with that, because then you know a little bit about their ideas?
It's good to me.
Cool.
All right. See you all in a few minutes.
I was going to say, quick question. And has everyone seen this sheet that we sent round? The judge questions, investor questions. Great. This is just a really good starting point to refer back to. But yeah, let's take a break and we'll see you in 5.